created very real human relationships. And these people said, Erin, I want you.
Yeah, that was that was the most pivotal moment for me.
Welcome back to another episode of the Be Somebody podcast. As you know, on this episode, you got me, your dear old Uncle Bobby, and I bring on guests who I believe are actively choosing and living a very intentional life, choosing to be somebody, taking action in their life, living it in a way that is inspiring. And today, I have a wonderful guest who I have worked with, Erin Cosmano.
Hi there. My name is Erin Cosmano. I'm the owner of Salt City Events. Thank you, Bobby, for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And thank you for allowing me to tell a little bit of our story.
Erin, I'm excited for this for many reasons. One, because you're a wonderful person. And I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable here because I think this is important. I'm the same guy online as I am in person. And so I just kind of peel the curtain back and I'm a little bit vulnerable. So we worked an event recently together where you hired my company to come and film and photograph an event that your company planned every detail of. And it was remarkable.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. You deserve that. So then in this event, the weather kicks up. And I remember one specific moment. This is day 2 of the event. We show up, I call you to find out, what room do you want us in? And I could tell that you had been holding back tears. And You just told me, you said, hey, I'm putting out some fires. Go to this room. I'll touch base with you in a few minutes. And so that's what we did. And then I see all of these challenges. I didn't have much context, but I see all of these challenges that you had faced. And then I had the privilege of witnessing how beautiful this event was. And I got to see you in this low moment where it was clear that you'd just been through hell, but yet you were still choosing to be somebody in that moment and you were fulfilling the contract and you were making this a wonderful experience for your clients. And then at the end of the night, at almost midnight, people are singing. They're in this incredible room and there's colorful lanterns on the ceiling. There's a live band right there. People are singing karaoke. And then I pop back into this other room behind the scenes where you are with your team eating some dinner while everybody else is enjoying this event that you and your crew had put on for them. And it was this, like, as a storyteller, it was this beautiful juxtaposition of like, oh my goodness, you are living life and then a storm happens. And what do you do when the storm happens? And I felt like I needed to bring that up at the beginning of this because that's who you are.
No, thank you. I mean, planning events in essence is much like life. Will take many years to think through our future and who do we want to be and what do we want to do? And then you get thrown these curveballs and everything that you planned for changes and we change as people and events change on site. And everything that we did in that event, we planned for the best, right? We planned for the most beautiful weather outside and we planned for, music and entertainment, all those things that we felt to the core were going to be the best thing to operate this event. And then all of a sudden you get the storm that comes out of nowhere and puts wine glasses up into the air and tray jacks that hit the building. And then you have to look at it. And although it's really disappointing and it makes you feel like you want to hide in a cave and cry, you have to be the best problem solver and figure out a way to move forward that makes sense. And what we did on that event, again, we planned for these months in advance and you just have to take the emotion out of it and take a deep breath and say, okay, what can we do to make this the best we can with the circumstances that are given so that we can still achieve the end goal? And I'm so glad that you were able to see that because that's what we do as a company is we try to figure out ways that we can be the best problem solvers as we can, as we are in life as well. And although we get dealt different cards and some of them good cards, some of them bad cards, how do we take those cards and make sure that we move forward that can make things better.
I love that. So it sounds like to me what you're describing is, hey, entrepreneurship is kind of like life.
Yeah, absolutely. Ups, downs, better or for worse. It is absolutely that way.
Well, I love that because I feel so similar. I feel like people need to get to know you. So there's Erin Cosmano, which is event planner, small business owner, just lady boss in all the ways, big bright smile, so kind, so generous to others. And then there's Erin mom.
Yep.
And then there's Erin wife. And there is Erin who has worked in the corporate world, who has seen the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And I want to dive into a little bit
Sure.
of this. So you've experienced some adversity, obviously, in your career.
Sure.
Walk me through. Let's start with parenthood. How has parenthood made you a better person?
Sure. Parenthood is a whirlwind, as is most jobs that you get into. I think when you go throughout life and you become an adult, most people don't know what they want to be or who they want to be when they grow up. And when I had kids, I also, people told me it was going to be hard, it was going to be challenging. I'm like, yeah, no problem. But after I had both of my girls and trying to balance the business and everything, your world changes in a way for the positive, right? You want to be able to find a career path where you're not living to work, where you work to live. And I wanted to do something where my girls would be proud of me as a mom who could balance those many facets of life, where I could still come to a dance recital and I could see my girls perform in a dance recital, but I also could put my head down and work hard and work through adversity and, start a business that was meaningful, that they could be proud of. So being a parent is probably my top achievement in my life. And to this day, seeing them grow up, and I want to be able to help them in ways where I struggled in the corporate or business world as a woman or as a human being in general, right? I mean, we all go through these trials, and it's very important for me, for them to see that they can have their mom also provide an impact for other people, but still attend to their needs in the best way possible.
I love that. So that brings up another question. You have been a career woman, and I know a little bit about your past career because you've talked to me about this. Now you own this business.
Yeah.
And I don't know the full timelines. You can tell us if you think it's necessary. But what I do want to know is this. I know many women have experienced somewhat of, I don't want to use the wrong term here, so I say this
Imposter syndrome?
No, I'm actually going to say an identity
Oh,
crisis.
absolutely.
When you're trying,
1,000%.
when you have children, you start creating a family,
Right.
but you have also been a career woman at this point. Did you experience any of that?
Oh man, I have had identity crises, whatever you call them, throughout my entire life. And I think that, the more experiences that I've had, the better understanding I've been at who I am as a person. And with being a mother to 2 young daughters and also being a career-driven woman, you go through that a lot. You go through this, is it kind of almost a guilt phase, right? Like you want to be able to show them, that you can achieve things outside of, and being at home is also a very wonderful and it is probably the hardest job
Absolutely.
on this planet. Truly, you're working 24/7, and there's nobody there to pat you on the back. Your bosses are mini people, and they're tyrants most of the time. So I wanted to be able to, go through life and show them that, yeah, I mean, and I've had a lot of identity crisis and changes as I go through this, because nobody knows what they want to be when they grow up. And still, I'm not quite sure what I want to be when I grow up, and I'm almost 40. But what I do want to show my kids and the younger generation below me is that as long as you go through life with the best ability to put a smile on your face, and you go through the adversity and the challenges and you take it with stride, and you can look at those things and you look at it in a measurable way and a productive way that has positive outlook. Like, how can I change this for not only my children, but for how like the other people around me and
Yeah.
make things more positive. That is probably the best way to go through your identity changes as you grow up.
Well, thank you for that, because I think about this often, because my wife currently, as I'm building this business, she's like board member number one, right? She's
Absolutely, as she
pillow
should be.
talk,
Yep.
everything else. She is so involved in the business without physically working hours and hours during the day on the business.
Yeah.
She's working hours and hours with the kids.
She's your business partner regardless.
100%.
Yeah.
And she tells me all the time, she's like, Bobby, you get these measurable results where you go make a video for somebody and then they see the result and they're like, wow, that's great. That really helped my business in XYZ way. Or, occasionally you can't satisfy everybody. So
Right.
maybe not everybody feels that way, but you can see a start to a project and an end to a project.
Right.
And then in parenthood, it's not always that way.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a thankless job. And
Thankless
truly
job.
it's the hardest job there is. And it's the most important job. So your wife, I praise her for, and she is your business partner. My husband is
Absolutely.
also my business partner. And he
Yep.
was able to support me in my endeavors. And although there's no measurable ROI on it for
Mhm.
essence, but you're raising these human beings to be better human beings so that the generation underneath us or the generation that we're bringing into this world can understand that you can have both, and you can have, you can still have those celebrations together as a family, and you can still have the business and entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
motherhood or fatherhood, whether you're a stay-at-home dad. And I know that's something that's happening now as well, is that
Yeah.
sometimes the mothers are, stepping into this role, the career path, and the fathers are the ones that staying home, vice versa. It's really important that you treat it as both of you are at the same level and you're both executives, right? And whether
Yeah.
your business is, bringing in what makes your family be stable and financially sound versus raising human beings to be the best human beings that they can be, right? And that they're
Yeah.
proud to, they are creating an impact on society that is beyond what you can give them. It's so important.
So for somebody watching who is sitting there and they're like, I'm struggling with this, Erin.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to find this balance that we hear of, if it's even possible,
Right.
between trying to be a career man or woman and trying to still raise a family. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think balance is a tricky word because balance means that you've got to always be on the level, right? And I don't think that it is like that all the time. Sometimes it's going to go wayside to the career side and you feel this anxiety, or sometimes it goes to the other side. But as long as it is like a consistent agreement and you work through the hard and you work through the good, that is what is the most important, because that's what builds the community together and still builds value and family and achievement together versus having to meet this consistent perfectionism. You're kind of ebbing the flows
Yeah.
as it goes, and that is what I would say would be the most important.
Well, thank you. As you were talking, I was thinking, do you know what an Indo board is?
No. Oh, this surfboard?
It's basically
Yeah.
like an on-ground surfboard
Yeah.
where you have some sort of plastic wheel that almost looks like a foam roller.
Yep.
Then you have a flat piece of wood on top, and you basically navigate it, and it
Sure.
can help you with your balance, right? But I was thinking of that as you were talking. The visual popped in my mind of like, you don't always just stand on it and remain stable.
Yeah.
Balance is not always stability. It's you turn and then you're like, whoa,
Recorrect.
I'm off, so now I have to correct. And then your goal is to have the majority of your time with that in the middle. And
Right.
that's what I felt like you were just describing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful
It's a
analogy
balancing
that you
board,
gave. Yeah.
Just sometimes you tip nose down, sometimes you tip up, but for the most part, you hope to be stable as a unit.
Yeah. Well, thank you for diving into that. I think for me, what I want people to get out of this is I want them to get a grasp for who you are holistically as a person. And I know that parenthood is a large component of that.
Sure.
And I know that owning a business is a large component of that. a lot of the people who watch this, they have heard my story, which is 8 years corporate America. And then the final one, I had that 6-figure salary. I had that position where it was like, whoa, hey, you're 31 years old. Is this what it's like? And then all of a sudden it's taken away from you with an unexpected layoff. And all the frustrations that I had ever experienced in a corporate setting were right there on the surface level. And I basically raised my middle fingers to it. And I said, hey, Macy Media is born.
Yeah, good for you.
And that was 5 years ago for me. You have told me that you've had some unsettling experiences in the corporate
Lots
world.
of ups and downs, lots of happy moments, lots of trials. View now my trials as learning experiences and what I would want to do as a business owner to ensure that my staff never have to go through some of those things I went through as a human and as a woman, a mother or family oriented person in general. I was in the corporate world for about 15 years. I started in a locum tenens recruitment company where I was making 80 to 100 phone calls per day, dialing behind a desk. And it was where I learned how to not take no for an answer. And it gave me a lot of growth. But I also realized that was not what my heart was set out to do. And I was recruited into an events company. And although the pay was a little bit lower, I was like, at least I don't have to make 80 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
And so I started there. And, that company also had its trials and, but also had its wins as well. I mean, the company did really well enough where it was bought and sold 5 times.
Wow.
During the time. I did take a little bit of a hiatus there, to go work in the financial industry for a moment, which also had its own ups and downs, but enough positive where the company was bought that many times. We were a small fish in a big ocean that was, eaten by bigger fish and bigger fish. And the end of it was we were purchased by a private equity firm right prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, which unfortunately decimated the events industry. So at that time, while I was working there after my short little break, I came back onto the events world and I really got to understand what kind of corporate leader I wanted to be and how I wanted to treat my clients and how I wanted to treat my suppliers at a local level and how I wanted to treat my staff. So all of those experiences set me up for a way to do better, be a better boss, be a better person, and set the bar at a level where I think it should be for people to want to have that balanced life. I still want to go attend my daughter's dance recitals or soccer games and have the autonomy. And I also work hard. I know that I put more hours in, sometimes after hours on the weekend so that I can do that. And I want to be able to provide that for my people and my staff. And I was fortunate enough to have partners in the industry who looked at me and said, hey, you've changed your name 5 times after the company was bought and sold these 5 times, but we work with you. And hence, Salt City was born, and I'm very fortunate to be where I am. And still, we're going to go through these wins and losses as long as we can proceed and measure and look at what those downturns are, what our wins are. That's what makes a better company.
I love that. So clarification for me and for anybody watching.
Yeah.
The buy and sell process for 5 times.
Yeah.
You owned the company or did not own the company?
I did not own the company.
You were an employee of that company.
So I worked for the same company. I was an employee of that company. And
Perfect.
I started at the, planning side and, just, I didn't know much about business. But the business was doing well enough that they were bought by another business and then bought by another business. And our name would change every time or the entity structure would change.
And I'm sure culture would change.
Culture would change, of course. And there were, in fact, this woman, Kathy Forcardi, who was with DSC, Destination Services Company, is a big inspiration of mine. She was an owner of so she, out of Colorado, purchased this DVIP from All Resort Company at the time when we were purchased. And the culture of working for her was so pure, and it was so
I love that word.
She made it so that everybody felt like they were running their own business, and when the company did well, all the employees did well. Everybody bonused and everybody it felt like a truly, we were all moving the same direction. The machine was moving the same direction. And when the business did well, we did well. It was amazing. And as any entrepreneur dreams of, she was approached by another large national entity and sold to them. And,
Yep.
it did change the culture for better or for worse. And even with that transition, it was still great, right? It was that secondary transition when we were purchased by another private equity firm that, they don't know the people, like they lost the sense of the people who are operating it.
The human aspect.
The human aspect. And instead of becoming, producing something where you felt proud to produce, you're a cog in the wheel.
Oh,
And that was, in
it just
essence,
hurts my soul.
yeah, and she did such a great job of just valuing people. And I would love to, I mean, she's just an amazing woman in general. But when you get to that level, it is an unfortunate thing because,
Yep.
they tighten budgets, they make sure your margins are bigger. And in essence, I had to look at my clients and say, I want to produce this amazing event for you, but I have to hit this margin that is, in my eyes, high.
Of course.
And so it makes it so that I can only do so many things. And so during COVID, the event industry was decimated, and I wanted to get back to my roots and figure out, like, how can I do events where they're incredible, all-encompassing. We've got everything from, your amazing band to your activations and where we make it an event experience and it's affordable and achievable for our clients. And that's how Salt City was born out of this whole, that there was lots of trauma in the COVID thing, but for me it was exciting because I was able to, somebody pushed me out the door, right?
Yeah.
Like COVID is kind of what pushed me out the door in essence, like, how do you fire on the mountain, get you out of the door, and you're going to start running.
I understand that because for me, it was a layoff, an unexpected layoff. And it was just the kick in the backside that I needed to start it, right?
Yeah.
And for you, it sounds like COVID kind of brought that about.
Sure.
And yet you still saw this need. And it sounds like, now, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what I was hearing is you had created very real human relationships. And these people said, Erin, I want you.
Yeah, that was that was the most pivotal moment for me, is that I went to my partners after all this happened and I just thought, how can I do this in a way that, and I had never owned a business. I'd never been, I had been a manager and a leader, but like I wanted to do something more. And I had to go to these partners to find out whether or not it was viable because I was sticking my neck out. Both me and my husband had to have dual income so that we could put food on the table and I could pay for my mortgage. So we went to my partners that were in the market and I said, hey, if I were to start this business, what would you think? And they all kind of laughed at me and they were like, oh, you've changed your name 5 times. We still work with you. And that was the most eye-opening experience because it made me realize, like, you are the one who's putting in the work. Like, if you can lean on your own capabilities and your work ethic, and again, to this day, there's still parts of me that, like, I wake up, I'm like, oh my gosh, did this really happen? I'm so grateful. But anybody can do this if they believe in their self and they believe in their work ethic and they can, just strive to do better.
Beautiful in so many regards. I say this to people all the time. They'll say, Bobby, what's the difference between you and the next marketing company or you and the next video company, right? And I say, look, videographers are a dime a dozen. You can find them. And I said, but you're going to feel different when you work with us.
Yeah.
Because when I show up at an event, I ask different types of questions. I try to read the room. I've tried to develop a certain relationship with my clients. And then in almost all of my emails, I'll title them, hey friends, right? Or hey team, or I want to be an extension of them, right?
Yeah.
And you are somebody who, although we've only known each other for, I guess, from a lifetime standpoint, a short period of time, I've seen you in action. and I've seen this.
You've seen
and,
the heartache and the good. Yeah.
and I've felt it,
Yeah.
right? And I've seen your goodness toward me, and I've seen your goodness toward your employees. I've seen your goodness toward your clients.
Thank you.
And that's choosing, in my mind, that is choosing to be somebody.
Yeah. I'm choosing to be somebody, and I want to, and thank you. I want to be somebody so that we can do better. I know that we can as a corporate world together. And thank you for asking me those questions. And thank you for being so flexible with me, because you did get to know me. You got to know my people, like what it is that we did. You saw glassware fly up like the Wizard of Oz, and you just kept the film rolling. And you saw, for better or for worse, how we came together as a team to execute those problem-solving skills. And I see that for you as a business owner as well. And again, I'm a natural-born introvert, and this feels much more comfortable to me. And you inviting me here to tell me, ask me a little bit about our sizzle reel, and you've spent the time where I feel very comfortable, and I cannot thank you enough for bringing me into this. And truly, I've worked with many videographers in my career, and I've never felt a personal connection of you trying to get to know me or my business or my people, or what are our mission, vision, and values, and what it is that we stand for. So thank you.
You're hitting me in all the feels, my friend. Okay, so I do have a couple of questions for you that are, some of them are still kind of this vulnerability, personal, how did you get to where you are with your mindset questions, but others are business related. So do a quick calculation on all the adversity that you've ever had. Now, we didn't touch on this, but you've experienced sexual harassment.
Sure. You
have experienced, and this is related, but we'll call it something different.
Corporate bullying.
Yes, corporate bullying.
Yeah.
You have experienced, as a woman, you have experienced alpha male environments.
Yep.
And then you've also experienced these beautiful environments where people are saying, Erin, it's you. You're the secret sauce.
Yeah.
So how do you make sense of all that? And how does all of that compound to make you into who you are right now?
Yeah, well, I think all of that has made me who I am today. And looking back at it, it was funny. I was writing out my story for another marketing company as we build our new brand launch. And I went through my whole history of, starting out in this industry where I, had a job that is very important, but it was not as fulfilling. But then also moving into a career where it is, all of the business owners and the VPs are male, and all of the, and regardless of male or female, there are people who work at the base level to produce a certain expectation for these individuals. And I found myself working a crazy amount of hours for a very small, salary per year that equaled out to be something that was, unreasonable. I loved what I did. And that is, the basis of my core is that I loved the work. And then I moved on to, after I had asked for what I thought was a minimal pay bump, and, it didn't work out. And instead of woeing on my losses, I said, you know what? Next step. What's my next story? And I went to a different industry and tried it out there, where it was a very different culture type. It was financial industry, which is unfortunately very still misogynistic to this day and to its core. And I know it's been getting better. I've got, my sister works in Wall Street, and she actually has better maternity leave than I ever had. I mean, I was given 6 weeks unpaid time off. And as a woman and as a human being, I mean, puppies are not allowed to come home until they're 8 weeks old. Like, why are we? And also, I can look at it as a business owner too. Like, I get that there is a financial impact to that, but why are we not planning for that? And that is something that I am doing for my employees. Like, I never want another woman or father to come into that part of their life that is so important to worry about how they're going to make the next 6 months of their life work. Well, they have a new baby, an entire life change that they both need to be part of to work together. Like, I just never want anybody to experience that. So regardless, that was another life lesson of mine. I did deal with a lot of unfortunate, in both the male and female aspect of it, discrimination of how you looked or how you presented yourself or this, that, and the other. And I ended up leaving that job right after I came back from an unpaid 6-week maternity leave and decided to, just continue forward. It's putting one foot in front of the other, right? Life is never perfect. And if you look at everything and you're distasteful or you just have to look at every experience in a way where, and now I reflect and I would possibly do things differently. And I want to set things up differently so that we can always do better.
I listen to that and I think of the Michael Jackson song, Man in the Mirror.
Yeah.
And he talks about, if you want change, look at yourself and then make the change.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what you've done. You've had these experiences, they've shaped you, and now you are providing a better employment experience for other people so that they don't have to go through that version of hell that you went through. And that really resonates with me.
Yeah.
I understand that as a business owner with people who work for me, I understand people are going to come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's going to be strictly a financial decision, whatever. But I am the guy similar to you who's like, well, they're not going to leave because they didn't feel loved.
Right.
And
right.
so and sometimes you just have to, that is something that is hard to account for on a balance sheet.
Yeah, it is. In fact, good employees are very hard to account for on a balance sheet. And as a business owner, you find people who will come and they want to get paid, but they don't believe in the work. And not that they don't want to work, but they don't understand it. But then as you cycle through and you find people who like truly believe in your long-term mission, and even if they don't, and they've got these other side projects, if people would come to me and say, hey, I want to start a family, or hey, I've got this other business idea, great. I hope I was able to provide you a stepping stone so that you are better in your future endeavors, just like I was with every work and corporate experience that I've ever gone through, because every one of those experiences, for good or for bad, have made me who I am today. And I want those other people to have that same experience, hopefully with less of the bad.
I love that. Less of the messy.
Less of the messy, of course.
Yeah. So as I've gotten to know you, I have come to understand that you are a primetime edition of a walking self-help book. You are somebody, and yeah, that is meant to be a compliment. You are somebody that seems to try and consume content that is going to make you a better individual. You're somebody who's clearly developed a positive mindset, and not just a positive mindset, but I'm going to call it a healthy mindset. So somebody who is struggling right now with self-doubt, negativity, maybe victim mindset.
Yeah.
What do you say to them? How do they overcome that?
Well, I would say sit with that feeling for a minute and like really sit in it, because those feelings are real. And I don't want to be the one to tell you otherwise, because everybody goes through those cycles, right? There were times in my life where oh, woe was me, I'm a victim. Or there are times where I felt this uttermost sorrow, or I don't know how to explain it other than like darkness, right? And if you can sit with that feeling for a minute and then look at all of the silver linings that you have around you, whether it's work or family or the outdoors or anything, and just lean into those things that speak to you, right? Like figure out what it is that, may not be the career path, or maybe it's something that is uplifting. Note that down and talk about it. And that darkness will begin to fade as you work towards yourself and who you are as a human being. Like, I never thought I'd be in this position that I am today. And I found myself in those positions of victimization and darkness and woe is me, and I'm never going to get out of this. But then I looked at the people around me. I looked at my friends and my family and all of these things I've learned from it. I took it as a learning experience. You move forward in life and you look back and you measure your progress and you're like, okay, these are maybe like introspectively, like the things that, I could change, or like the things I want to change around me. And you work towards the better. You climb out of the pit that you've dug for yourself, in essence, because that's what makes you stronger.
You are just speaking to my soul today. And I genuinely mean that, because a lot of what you're saying, I'm just like, did we get that on film? Oh, wait, yes, we did. We got it on film. And so a few more questions, because I could do this all day, but I have to be respectful of your time. You work with a lot of Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies who say, Erin, I want you to give me a Disney-like experience. We're going to host an event, and you're going to be the one who carries out every detail.
Yeah.
Walk me through what that feels like to be in charge of that.
Yeah. So first off, I start with asking those individuals who you are. Like, who are you in essence? Like, who is your brand? Like, what's your brand story? Tell me about the company you work for. Tell me about your demographic. Tell me about your mission, vision, and values. I want to know all of that, right? What we do as an event planning company is that we take all of those pieces that seem so minute, and we want to figure out who they are. And we also want to figure out the objectives of whatever event it is that they're producing. We want to be able to combine the objectives with their brand and who they are at the core to understand like how we can execute an event that is going to give them that ROI that makes sense for what they're spending, because events are oftentimes not you're putting in an investment. And when you put an investment in as a business owner, you want to understand what that ROI is, and you want it to reflect your company, your values, and everything. So we get to know them, we get to know the business, and then we take sometimes months to plan and build out different ideas and build out logistical plans, and we contract with suppliers, and there's a lot of moving pieces that go into it, but that's kind of the basis of what we do.
So what I'm hearing is that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you have to use them proportionately.
Yeah.
And so the element of communication that is listening, you have to be a good listener. Now walk me through months and months of planning. How do you manage to communicate with your clients to, like, what do check-ins look like? I'm fascinated by this, because I'm like, as a content producer, the moment that those cameras stop, most of my clients are like, so when are we going to get this footage? Right. And so then I have to manage expectations and have touch points along the way.
Yeah.
But our projects usually aren't months and months. With you, they are.
Yeah.
Walk me through what that looks like.
Yeah. So the cameras, in essence, never stop for us. We have weekly check-ins, monthly check-ins, and they task us with, hey, now you know who we are, and you know like what we need to do to achieve this event that is going to create brand trust or brand, almost like a togetherness for that group or whatever it is they're trying to achieve. And those planning meetings that we have with them are all about like, okay, we'll propose like different ideas and themes that may speak to them and activations that may speak to them, but when everything we propose has to have a cost associated with it, and it has to be available. So people don't understand when events are created that you have to make sure that when you're reaching out to other sub-suppliers, not even just us because we have our own internal rental company, but that those entertainers are available and that you've got their pricing and that it meets, like, we propose sometimes 5 to 6 different themes that we hope to achieve their goals in the initial planning phases or the initial like sales proposal process of this business. And once they select like what they think is going to be the best for them, then we even further develop that. So it is months in the planning and sometimes years, especially for some of those events that are really intricate when you've got your, permits that have to go into place, and, you've got so many layers of suppliers and entertainers and audiovisual and production, and staffing is a big component of it, right? Like how are you going to get that idea to come to life. The ideas are easy. It's how you get that idea to be put together in a production that is on time, that looks seamless, and also you can look at the person if something were to come up and the weather were to change. You're able to act as a problem solver in advance, and most times we have like weather backup floor plans. So there's so many facets to the meeting and event planning industry, and that's what we pride ourselves on, is that we want to provide that personal touch and go above and beyond and be those problem solvers pre-event planning to make sure that everything is seamlessly put together and they achieve what they're looking to achieve out of their end result.
I think that's fascinating because everything that I do, I look at it as an analogy to life, right? And so as you're describing that, I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, you communicate along the way. You
Yeah.
have problems that arise along the way. You try to anticipate, what can I do better,
Yeah.
right? You anticipate the different things that could potentially go wrong, and yet you have no idea if those are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
But there's an element of preparing for the future while staying in the present. That's something that's totally family, life, human being oriented. And so what I'm getting and what I'm fascinated by with you is that you are building a company that is completely human.
Yeah. Completely human and taking things with grace. I know grace is like a big, no matter what your challenges are, and you may feel like the world is crumbling internally and you're like, oh, but if you can put together the grace to communicate those things with people at a human level, that is what resonates and builds that trust on corporate level or an employee level, whatever it is, it's grace. Like you just have to move forward with grace in your life.
I think the people who are going to watch this are going to be like, Erin, are you hiring? Like, can I come work for you? Which I think is beautiful because that's who you are. You have this magnetism about you where you draw in good people. And I think that is, I've met many of your employees.
Yeah.
And I think one of the
They're the
reasons
best.
why, well, and I've seen that they believe that. They're drinking that Kool-Aid, so to speak, and it's not a false perception. It's real because the fount of the Kool-Aid is sitting right across from me, and you're giving them something that tastes good, and as a result, they are good.
Yeah.
Right? But I think a lot of that is that as a third party here, I would say you have put work into yourself. I have a friend who says this. He says, the work is the work, talking about like self-improvement.
Yeah, no, I love this because I'm all about self-improvement and
Yes.
learning and growing as we go.
So he says, the work is the work and it takes what it takes. And it's this continual process, right? But you clearly are a person, and this is why I wanted to interview you. You are a person who has worked enough on yourself and is continuing that journey. You've created that magnetism where you're drawing in other people toward you because of who you are, because of who you've become. And then you quickly analyze and you're like, nah, that's not the right fit. Either A, I don't want to work with you, or B, I don't want to work with you because you don't match my ideal of who I'm trying to be as a
Yeah.
person. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I feel like when you give people the ability or autonomy to stick their neck out and take a risk, but also give them the grace to fail, and can learn from that together as a team, I think that's huge. I mean, I've made mistakes in my career. I know everybody's going to make mistakes as you go, regardless of the quantifiable like dollar amount that goes into it. Like, make sure that everybody has got the courage to strive and do something different, but also the grace to give themselves like, it's okay. It's okay if things don't go right. Like, we all fail. Like, pick yourself back up and move forward. And that's what I hope to provide for my staff, is because that's what I
Yeah.
have done. And I think that's what will make a better business, is that like, I don't want anybody to feel fearful to fail. Like, it just is part of human experience.
That's so good. Kay, I always ask, I could ask you 1,000 more questions, but I know you have a life. And I always ask this one final question on this podcast, and it is, dun, 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 Erin, what does it mean to you to be somebody?
What it means to me to be somebody is so that you're creating an experience for people beneath you so you can pass the baton in a way that makes their world a better world because you've learned your trials and errors, right? And you can help foster that environment of better learning and more efficient learning, and you can look at people and raise them up. That is what that means to me.
Well, I love that. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to do our obligatory outro now. And you have just been a gem to chat with.
Well, thank you. You as well. This has been an incredible experience. So,
Well, you're awesome, my
thank
friend.
you, Bobby.
All right, guys, do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you can see more episodes with amazing people just like my friend Erin. And if you want to connect with Erin, Salt City Event Co. Google her. I think that is the URL of her website, saltcityeventco.com. Am I correct?
Yes.
She's incredible.
We have
You've
a rental
seen it.
company too, just in case.
Ooh, give a quick plug.
It is it was Collective Rental, but we now have a new branding. It's Spark. The handle for our rental company is sparkrentalco.com. And now we have in-house rentals and production in addition to our meeting and event planning services. Inspired by
Double-faceted.
Fire on the Mountain song, Grateful Dead.
You're so awesome. I love it. Well, you heard it here. And so connect with Erin, rent a company, also event company. Thank you for joining. And till next time, my friends.